Good morning, East Africa and the entire world. How are we doing this morning? We're literally in the middle of the month, so I hope that the month has been good to you so far. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Now, we are all different in terms of how we see or approach things, right? But have you ever wondered why you work really well with some people and seem to clash with others, and why you can predict how some colleagues will react to situations and others leave you completely in shock? Well, could be something to do with your personality, which we'll be unpacking shortly. At the same time, learn more about emotional intelligence and also understand how they are interrelated, if they are. Okay, but first things first, the day's highlights. But a rider wanted for assaulting female motorist arrested trying to flee to Tanzania. 2 people arrested for impersonating KCSE candidates. And does one's personality determine how emotionally intelligent they are? We find out shortly. And elsewhere, UDA claims Karua will attend NDC. She disputes the claim. All right, and today it's all about understanding your personality and how emotional intelligence rather fits into your personality. The question that we're asking you today is, do you know your personality type, and how does it affect or influence your choices? Once again, do you know your personality type, and how does it influence your choices? Keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at lubembe_Winnie if you want to learn about personalities and how or where you fit in. Again, you want to stick around until the end of the show, but in the meantime, keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at lubembe_Winnie. You want to call in live? The panel will have a really abled panel today, and of course, they'll be answering all your questions as far as personality type and emotional intelligence is concerned. So you do not want to miss the part of the conversation. But for now, we're still dealing with a pandemic that, of course, ravaged the entire world. So how about you take a look at the numbers, how we are doing so far, and of course, would want to begin with the global figures now. And that is what you're seeing right now on your screen is the numbers in the country, where as at now, according to the Health Ministry, 323,195,000 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in the country up until now. And then 317,491 other people have actually recovered from the same. But unfortunately, we've lost 5,648 others to COVID-19. But then again, looking at the numbers globally and how they're looking at, right, let's have that on the screen. And up until now, 460,187,686 people have actually been confirmed to have contracted COVID-19 up until now, and then 393,292,660 others have actually recovered from the same. But unfortunately, we have lost over 6 million people again to COVID-19. And of course, that tells you that the pandemic is still here with us. And like we always say, in as much as the Health Ministry has revised some of the protocols, it's prudent, all right, for all of us to just make sure that you protect yourself and those ones around you from the same. Now, Zachary Nyaura Obadiah, the mastermind behind the sexual assault of a female driver on Forest Road 2 weeks ago, has finally been arrested. According to DCI officers, he was apprehended on Monday morning while attempting to cross into Tanzania at the Sirare border crossing point. Leila Mohammed has that report.
In its dramatic news style, the DCI broke the news via Twitter. In a sentence, "We have him." Officers from the Elite Crime Research and Intelligence Bureau, aided by a section of detectives from Nairobi DCI Regional Command, pounded on him as he attempted to cross the border into Tanzania via a secret path. The border rider had been on the run for more than a week, and police had placed him on the wanted list. Police say that the forensics laboratory had earlier placed him at the crime scene scientifically. Police had launched a manhunt for him in the Mukuru slums where he lives, but he is said to have escaped the dragnet in Mukuru Kayaba through a sewer duct. With the help of digital forensics, cybercrime experts at the DCI were able to track him down and apprehend him before he crossed into Tanzania. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
All right, thanks, Leila. And to politics now. Where does Martha Karua fit into this political equation? Well, this is the big political question right now, as she appears to be the beautiful bride sought by Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, and the coalition with which she has flirted for quite some time, the One Kenya Alliance. Is she available to any of the potential suitors? Well, the United Democratic Alliance believes she will attend their National Delegates Convention at the Kasarani Gymnasium today. Is she going to? NTV's senior political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi follows the Iron Lady and her suitors' pursuit.
NAK Kenya party leader Martha Karua appears to be among the most sought-after political players heading into the August elections, going by sentiments expressed by major political players. Today, during a tour of the Kasarani Gymnasium by UDA-allied MPs, the Rakanithi Senator Kithure Kindiki mentioned Karua as one of the invited guests, hoping she would show up and join their outfit.
We expect the leader of the ANC party, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. We expect the leader of Ford Kenya party, the Honorable Martha Karua.
On Saturday, it was widely assumed that her party would be among those signing a new agreement, formalizing the Oka Azimio deal at the Azimio Delegates Convention, but she was a no-show. She'd later respond to a tweet saying, "I'm relaxing at home."
Sisi tukiwa Jubilee, Raila Amolo Odinga akiwa ODM, Kalonzo akiwa na Oka na wenzake, KANU na wenzake wa na Kenya na wengine, zote tushirikiane tuwe kitu kimoja.
Just Friday, when Martha turned up for the signing of a coalition agreement with the One Kenya Alliance, she had expressed reservations about their bargaining power, even as it later turned out that the document, though being a coalition agreement, any party was at liberty to leave as long as they gave a written notice.
The market waters of coalitions in Kenya is lack of transparency, that you're laughing with somebody and signing, and they have a dagger to your back.
Her absence from the Azimio Delegates Conference could indicate a possible next move.
I even spoke to Mother today. She was a bit uncomfortable. Mother herself is a senior counsel. And that's why we need as Oka to sit. And of course, look at the practicality, the actual situation, say, on the ground in Kirinyaga. Does it favor her? Because she must ask herself that question. If the new configuration works to her disadvantage, of course she'll be at liberty to say, my friends, I don't think I want to sign this coalition political party.
But even though Martha Karua was a no-show at the Azimio Delegates Conference on Saturday, they still have hopes that she might join them.
You know the people and the political parties that have been left on the chessboard. You know them. And you know that some of them are significant. Obviously, there's now Kenya and Martha Karua, who is an important player in this country's political map.
Political pundits say she is considering running for Kirinyaga governor or being a deputy president nominee. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
And to education matters now, the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education began on a cheating note on Monday, with the Education CS stating that 5 individuals are already being investigated for exam malpractice. Over 800,000 candidates will sit the written exam for the 2021 exam over the next 2 weeks. Education CS, that is Professor George Magoha, has stated that while 2 candidates caught with phones will sit the rest of the exams, tougher measures will be taken against those attempting to cheat. Mohammed returns with that report.
Despite several efforts to address the issue of exam cheating, some students continue to use creative means to obtain grades that CS Magoha insists aren't legitimate. According to Magoha, a scheme is being devised by a few individuals involved in the administration of KCSE exams with the intention of cheating.
In Nairobi, we already had 2 students with cell phones. We are going to be very soft with them. We shall allow them to take the exams. But I want to once again just warn that any teacher who feels he or she is brave enough to open, particularly the second paper, we shall know where you have done it and we shall come for you, just like we did in Ojia and just like we did in Tanzania and other places.
The CS reveals that a multi-agency security team has been formed to collect intelligence reports and pounce on any suspicious characters jeopardizing the exam's integrity.
We are not going to have mercy for you. For this time round, because of our children, we shall be quasi-dictatorial. We must protect our children. Hata ukienda kotini hiyo ni shauri yako. We shall protect our children because the children deserve to be given that space to do their exams.
Meanwhile, police in Kisii Central Sub-County have arrested a man suspected of impersonation as a Form 4 candidate in the examination which began today at a secondary school in the area. The exam supervisor and invigilators alerted the police after suspecting the man was an imposter rather than a genuine candidate.
Huyu mwanafunzi ambaye alishikwa anaitwa Angwenyi Brian Nyakeri. Miaka yake ni 20 na ni third year student pale Kisii University. Alikuwa na keti mtihani akimfanyia ama akimpersonate Nyamoya James Martin ambaye ni candidate. Huyu Nyamoya James Martin ameregister mtihani katika kituo cha private center ambaye saa hizi inakuwa hosted na hiyo Kiamabundu Mixed Secondary School.
The suspect has been processed in preparation for his arraignment in court on Tuesday. Education CS Professor Magoha says that 3 exam officials are being held in police custody in various parts of the country due to exam irregularities they were caught committing.
Airport View School in Garissa, where the center manager by the name of Mary Mudhui took an image of the chemistry paper, and of course our security features are there. We were able to know who has taken the image of the security paper. She has since been arrested in Isiolo, where again someone called Simon Guyo Bonaya also attempted to invade the chemistry paper. Humanist secondary school with 40 candidates in Bita, and we found a social worker collaborating with the center manager. They had 8 cell phones.
In Busia County, another impersonation suspect is being held by police. The young man was nabbed after it was discovered that he was trying to sit the exams on behalf of a KCSE candidate.
Baraza Makoa, he sat his KCSE in 2016 and scored a C system. For the father is 42 years old.
Security in Baringo County has been increased in the northern part of the county. According to administration officials, 20 National Police reservists have been dispatched to Baringo North, joining the 80 already stationed in Yatia and Toyoitich in Mochongoi Baringo South. Education CAS Dr. Sarah Ruto has stated that students had enough time to revise for the examination despite the coronavirus pandemic. She has warned against cheating and urged candidates to be true to themselves and resist the temptation to sneak in illegally.
Tunataka kurudisha heshima, integrity back, na pia usawa, fairness, kwamba kila mtoto apate kufanya mtihani katika ule sana, asipate kuona mtihani mbele. Na kuna mikakati mingi tumefanya, na KCPE kulikuwa na 2 or 3 incidents ambapo, na hapo tunasema si mbaya kwa sababu ni kama 99.9% tulifanya mitihani vizuri.
Leila Mohamed, NTV.
And elsewhere, for the first time in 4 months, the government is raising palm prices, signaling growing pressure on the subsidy extended to consumers. Starting midnight on Monday, consumers will pay 5 shillings extra for a litre of super petrol and diesel, even as the price of kerosene remains unchanged. The latest palm price review comes at a time when the price of oil in the global market has surged past the $100 per barrel for the first time since 2014. On the back of supply-side challenges following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The divergence between the ceiling set by the market regulator and the real market price continues to widen, with diesel posting the largest divergence at 27 shillings and 56 cents per litre. All right, now let's switch gears and focus on the topic of conversation today. And it's all about personality, that is understanding personality types. And we'll also get to understand how emotional intelligence actually fits into this. Are they interrelated? Are they not? And of course, the question that we're asking you today is, do you know your personality type? And does it influence your choices? Once again, do you know your personality types? And does it influence your choices? Keep tweeting at NTV Kenya, at lubembe_Winnie. And of course, if you want to call in live, especially for those ones who do not know their personality types and you'd want to understand, so how do I know where I fit and all those things, then feel free to do so. The numbers will be down on your screen in just a moment. And by the end of the discussion, hopefully all of us would understand where we stand, where we fit, and how this also influences our day-to-day interactions, let's say at workplaces, relationships, and all the above. All right. And without further ado, our panel of the day, very, very strong panel, well able to handle the topic of discussion. So I'll begin, from my furthest, where we have Mucha Mlingo, who's a founder and lead change maker, PTS Africa, as well as an emotional intelligence coach. It's so good to finally meet you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I've heard so much about you. At this point, I think we should just call you emotional intelligence queen, because you're all about it. And again, thank you very much for really making time for us this morning. And we also have Victor Lumbete Salamba, who's a relationship coach. You all know him, and the last time he was here, you all loved him. So thank you very much for coming back again, Victor. All right. And of course, we also have Abigail Njeri, who's a communication and media practitioner. It's so good to see you, Abby.
It's so good to see you.
It's so interesting because yesterday when I was talking to Abby, it's like me and you say what's up group. Right? Our personalities are more or less the same. And of course, you'd get to understand why we're saying the same. And I'll start with you, Mucha, in terms of just understanding, first of all, emotional intelligence, right? And then we'll come back to then also understanding our personalities, because this IQ, EQ, we all hear it almost all the time. But then again, sometimes people are like, so how does it even measure? And why is it such important, right? So can we just start with, first of all, understanding emotional intelligence and, again, intelligence quotient?
So emotional intelligence is really an individual's ability to connect with, decipher, and use emotional information. So it's understanding what you're feeling, interpreting what that means, and then using that information appropriately. That's really what emotional intelligence is. It also goes into being able to connect and understand the emotions of others, right? So that's what emotional intelligence is.
It's all about,
Intelligence is really about your ability to understand complex understand things that are complex, right? And so we use the term IQ to determine how intelligent someone is. And that's really just about problem solving, being able to understand complex matters, unpack them. And this is something that's pretty fixed. Research shows that someone's IQ doesn't really change throughout their life. And yet emotional intelligence is a skill. So emotional intelligence is something that you can actually develop regardless of where you are today in terms of your emotional intelligence. And there is no relationship between IQ and emotional intelligence. So, you know, you cannot assume that someone who has a high IQ is going to be emotionally intelligent and vice versa, that someone who has a low IQ is going to be low in emotional intelligence. They're actually not related, because remember, emotional intelligence is a skill. And so regardless of how book smart a person is, regardless of how academic an individual is, they can develop emotional intelligence. They can actually practice and get better.
I'd like that, because I think because there's that term intelligence in between, so we tend to mix all of the all the above. But I like that. But then again, so someone might ask, okay, fine, if it's just understanding your emotions and then using the information appropriately, see, it's just natural. Me, I know today I'm feeling sad, and end of story, right? Why is it such a big issue, and why is it such an important skill for one to actually learn?
Winnie, it's an important skill because emotions drive behavior, right? So the emotional part of the brain is in charge of action. And so our emotions drive the way that we behave, the way that we show up. And a lot of people, Winnie, will tell you they know how they're feeling. But if you do a poll right now and you ask people to give you the emotions they felt over the last few days, we use a handful of emotions. I felt good, bad, sad. But most of us don't actually really understand what it is we're feeling. We don't really pay attention to our emotions. And so emotional intelligence is about going beneath the surface. In addition, emotions very rarely travel on their own. We're usually feeling multiple emotions. It's just there are some that are louder than others, right? Anger is a loud emotion. So when I'm angry, I can feel the anger, but it's usually fueled by a lot of other things. And it's only as we begin to dig beneath the surface to understand what all those emotions are that we're able to utilize that information. So most of us actually operate on autopilot. We don't actually pay attention. We're not really connecting with what our emotions are. And yet our emotions are insights. You know, I love to say emotions are data. It's just information. There are no good or bad emotions. It's just information letting you know how things stand. And the idea is you then use that emotion to make decisions throughout the course of the day. But the reality is most of us are on autopilot. We aren't really connecting with what we're feeling because the brain likes autopilot. Autopilot is, you know, is more efficient and effective.
Absolutely. Or sometimes people are like, me, I don't want to appear too emotional. So we tend to, I don't know, hide or do all those things. And we get to understand why it's important. So for all those people who say, yeah, women are too emotional, listen, emotions are good. Like Musha says, it's all about information. All right. Now, talking about our personalities, right? Victor, I'll throw this to you because, again, I'm sure by now everybody knows, you know, and we hear these terms, you know, this is my personality type. Me, I'm type A. Or me, I'm type B, or me, I'm type C, others type D, others are like, me, I'm just surviving, okay? So why is it, first of all, let's get to understand what makes us as individuals. Is it more of our personalities, and if so, then what are these personalities?
The most interesting thing you'll find is that even psychologists, we can't really agree on a set type of personalities. You know, we're always flipping them aside. You're always saying, you know, there's this one, then there's this one, then another comes, this 8 type, the 7 type.
And then 16, 32, it's a lot.
And I always go back to when a child is born. When a child is born, we can't really identify the personality of that child. Meaning that the personalities which we actually develop are adaptations to what we have gone through. You know, and the people who you'll find who will say that, you know, I am an introvert. But in truth, they're not. You know?
But
it's because there are things that have happened in their lives and they have adapted our particular way of living.
Okay.
So more often than not, we always want that I'm like this, but the first question, am I really this way? You know, the people who I've known, who have said, you know, I'm an extrovert, I'm the life of the party, I'm that person. Then when you go deeper and like what she has said, that we're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Well, when you go deeper, you find that the person actually doesn't want to give you space to come close. So they like to answer and ask, you know, how, you know, they're always talking, you know, I'm fine, you know, the family is okay, how are you, how are things?
Yeah.
They'll bombard you with questions and jokes and talk to everyone, but you just don't come close enough. When now you break and come close, you find that they're actually very shy people.
Okay.
They've actually been, you know, they've actually gone through some things. So you find that at the end of the day, personality is basically our adaptation to how we have received emotional data through more often than not our formative years.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting to understand, because there's some people who are like straight cut. Listen, me, I'm an extrovert. Me, I'm an introvert. Me, I'm an in-between, yeah, an ambivert. And again, now you bring in another aspect of maybe that is not who you really are. It could be because, you know, you're adapting to all those things. So much, a quick question in terms of, are they interrelated? That is personality type and emotional intelligence, like a yes or no answer. And then we'll come back and dig deeper into. No?
No.
Not at all?
No. So every personality type can be emotionally intelligent or not.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we'll get to unpack more on the same, because there's some people who might feel like, yeah, but since me, I'm an extrovert, I might be more emotionally intelligent than an introvert. Okay, Abby, you and me, like I said, same WhatsApp group, but let's just get to understand why we're saying the same, right?
Yeah.
So you are aware, like you're more self-aware, you know who you are, you know what personality type.
Well,
you
after
are.
Victor just spoke, I'm really not sure where I stand anymore. I'm really not sure what I want to say, but we'll just see where my notes take me.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Because now it got me thinking as well, because I somewhat understand what you're saying, because a lot of the times people would ask me and I would say, I'm actually an extrovert. No, I would say I'm more of an introvert, because I know somebody just like to be alone and all those things.
Yeah.
But then again, there are some mannerisms that people are like, nah, you cannot be an introvert. You are an extrovert. So I'm just like, okay, so how, again, maybe it's a case of adaptation, like Victor says. But for you, let's get to understand, and then we'll unpack as we move on.
He,
Who is Abby? What makes up Abby?
well, one thing I feel like for me, I'm always discovering myself.
Okay.
I'm always in a self-discovery journey, because one day I'll just be happy and everyone around me is like, oh, she's the life of the party, she's so extroverted.
Yeah.
And then the other day I'll come in, don't talk to me, just I want my space, let me recharge, let me have it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that you can use to describe me is I am just a big warm ball of love. I just love. Sometimes for me it's I feel like it's a good thing, but I've also discovered that at times it overpowers me, because there's only so much you can give, I think, and you'll also need the love yourself. So when you have people that are just taking and they realize she just loves, she will check up on you, even if you don't do anything, she will be the one who will come. And then sometimes I tell myself, you know what? Let me just see. Will you come check up on me?
Yeah.
But something will still push me to come check up on you, even if you don't check up on me.
Yeah.
It's just from what Victor
just like now.
I'm now
I think let's try to let's just go through, because you told me that you've always been like a strong child, right? Like ever since your mom told you, like ever since you were very little, you were such a strong child, and that is how you grew up, right?
Yes, and I think part of that was attributed to the fact that I am the firstborn, I am the first grandchild, I was a first of many, and I tend to think I grew up really fast.
Okay.
Really fast.
Yeah.
I grasp things really fast. Whatever I get, I feel like yes, I grew up too fast.
Yes.
Let me just say that.
Yeah.
I grew up too fast. But then I got to a point where I can calm down and now realize, okay, this is what happened. Can we internalize what happened? I also got to a point where I want to, I internalize my trauma because I realize most of the things that make me so self-aware is maybe because of the trauma I may have gone through in my childhood. And I actually really believe that my personality is, it grows with my environment, but it was greatly affected and influenced by how I was brought up.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Victor, now you've complicated things because I'm just doing like a bit of introspection here. I'm just thinking, sir, you know, where do I start? So then let's just get to understand, because I'm pretty sure lots of people also have this question in terms of, so then what forms of person? I know you talked about maybe adaptation and all those things, but even before just getting to understand the kind of environment we're in and how that influences who we are. Of course, there's that part of us where I'm sure you've had parents say, "Hi, mtoto tangu azaliwe tu amekuwa tu akikua, you know, she's always bubbly, he's always bubbly," or "No, this has always been a quiet child," you know. So then, at what point do our personalities then form?
Actually, let me put it as simple as possible from day one.
Okay.
Because remember, also as parents have got seasons. The seasons of, you know, and you find that she's the firstborn. There's a season to which her mom was going through when her mom had her, which is a different season from what the mom was going through maybe when she was having the ones who follow her.
Okay.
So you can find that in a family there can be one who's in one way, the other is different, based primarily on the season.
Yeah.
So more often than not, the first line of us receiving data as children, and that is our emotional data, come from our environment, mainly our parents. Strongly, first of all, in the first couple of years, 0 to 7 years, it's the moms.
Okay.
The moms play a very big role there. So something which I said, which is good, and I don't want to spoil her day, but she said something very good, which is a mistake I see many parents make, and as a relationship coach, I see it eating couples also when they're in their houses, is that she was a strong child. That's a dangerous statement.
Is it?
Yeah, because being that she was a strong child, she's the one who people always expected that she's okay. So meaning that when she said that earlier on that, you know, I'd like to sit and see would someone want to find out how I am doing, you know, that is the gap that is there. You see, so you find that the way she deals with the people, yes, she'll want to be there because she knows how to be there for people. That's the extrovert side of her. She knows how to be there for people. She wants to step out and to be there for you and to be there for you. Then when she reaches burnout, that part which was supposed to help her in maturing and be build, you know, she'll talk about emotional intelligence, and we begin from emotional capacity. Emotional capacity is built that time, because I have to have the capacity. The capacity helps me to receive it, whatever I'm receiving, putting names to it. Because I was given the chance to be a child, I was given the chance to cry, you know, throw a tantrum. I was given a chance to express, I was given a chance for all those things. I was not told who you haliangi, who you asumbuangi, ata wo hali. So you grew up that way, and that burns. I see it burning a lot of couples now. People break up not because, until you find that a good marriage can actually end. And you wonder how did it end. It's because someone had burnout. The other place, no one really takes care of me.
Or maybe since then there's that label that huyu haliangi, huyu asumbuangi. So then you don't want to show that, listen, I can cry sometimes because mesemekana huyu haliangi. So you want to stay in that phase.
Yeah, and if that now that bans, if the software in you for processing emotion, that short wires it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the processing part is now becomes tricky. So you find that this person it's easier for them to be there for other people, but it's hard for them to say,
I need help.
I need you. It's difficult for them to say because the processing had a short circuit.
Okay.
Yeah, because there is the part where I receive I receive it, I process it, then I express it.
Okay.
When this line is done well, is what she'll call emotional intelligence. Because I received it, I was able to process it, I was able to express it.
Okay.
Yeah, and in a mature way within the process. So how she wouldn't say that I need you. That one got fried. The software iliungua kitambo haiko.
And what is actually funny from what you said is, I'm actually very sensitive. And when my sensitive side shows, everyone is shocked. Like,
but you're
not
supposed to be
you're the one who's supposed to be our rock. So what are we supposed to do? Do we hug you? Do we talk to you? Do we give you space?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need some love.
Yeah.
But
some people don't see that. Okay, this is just very interesting. And it's interesting because based on what Victor says, and you said, no, but emotional intelligence is not in any way interrelated to our personalities, right? How is that? Because now it's like I'm seeing a bit of, like interrelatedness, but then again, no, there isn't anything like that.
There's no evidence that shows people who are extroverted are more emotionally intelligent, or people who are introverted are more emotionally intelligent. No, there isn't. It's not a given. Remember, emotional intelligence is a skill, right? And so whether you are extroverted or introverted, you can develop emotional intelligence. What you may find is that there are competencies to emotional intelligence, right? So, there are different models out there for emotional intelligence, but the model that I utilize is a model designed by 6 Seconds that looks at emotional intelligence in 3 key parts. Know yourself, which is self-awareness. Choose yourself, which is self-management, and give yourself, which is self-direction. Under each of these, we have competencies, all right? So we ultimately have 8 different competencies. So what you may find is that people who are introverted or people who lean towards introverted, maybe there are certain competencies of emotional intelligence that they are stronger in. Likewise, someone who leans towards extroversion, there are certain competencies of emotional intelligence that they are strong in. But when we look at the overall EQ score, no. An introvert can just be as emotionally intelligent as an extrovert. You'll find an introvert perhaps may lean more towards self-awareness because they are someone who's kind of, to themselves, so maybe they spend a bit more time thinking, but not necessarily, right? So it's not a given. What I think is great about the conversation we're having and what excites me the most about emotional intelligence is it is a skill.
Right?
So anyone can learn it, right? So the minute I realized, and it's interesting, you're talking about being a firstborn. I'm a firstborn, and there's a lady who wrote a book, Firstborn Daughters, and she talks about some of the characteristics of firstborn daughters. And it's true, they, especially firstborn African daughters, right? Because you have so much to prove because you're a girl, not a boy. There's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of the nurture, you're left, you're in charge.
You become like a mini mom.
You become a mini mom. And so that influences, some of your personality, right? Some of your personality is influenced. I mean, that conversation about nature, nurture, it's a conversation that will go on forever, right? It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? But
the debate.
For me, the good news is it doesn't matter. Because whatever it is, I can learn, I can unlearn. And it's that simple, right? So if I recognize, for example, for me, I am an extrovert, but interestingly enough, when we talk about the adaptation, COVID made me more introverted.
Really?
Yes. Through COVID, I realized that I was becoming more introverted, wanting my space more. I don't have the energy to be the one calling up everyone, checking if they're okay, right? So we do adapt to what's going on in life. The key is self-awareness. So I believe that self-awareness is a superpower, right?
But then again, when does that begin? Because you see, when we were growing up, right, like childhood, let's say to around teenagehood, there's a way we behaved, we responded to issues, we related to people. And then again, from let's say teenagehood to around 18, 20, like in early adulthood, again, there's a way that we behave, the way we relate, the way, and then, the cycle continues. So I'm just here thinking, so then at what point do you, I don't know, like it forms then who you are, because at some point you have to establish who you really are and not really focus on adapting to things that are happening in our lives.
So what you're referring to is my default, right? So my default settings. So when you research, psychologists say between the ages of 0 and 7 is where your initial default settings apply. And as has been said, it's a combination of nature nurture, right? So it's a combination of some of what you inherit, some of what is going on around you, in terms of, you know, the parenting, in terms of your environment. All of this kind of cooks together to bring about a certain character. So when I look at my two kids, I have two boys. Between 0 and 7, there's a certain way that we would say they behave. Now, what happens is the more we call it out, the more we reinforce it. Right? So the more I say that this one is a thinker, very quiet, you know, words have power, the more it becomes that reality. Right? So that's between 0 and 7. Then, as you've said, we go into kind of the next phase where, again, depending on our environment, depending on our circumstances, that can then be reinforced or it can be adapted, depending on what's going on in my life at that stage. And also remember, when you go through the teenage years, suddenly now there's hormones that are also contributing to the equation, right? And they interact with whatever has been preset and influence whatever has been preset. But you will find that an extroverted 10-year-old suddenly becomes an introverted 13, 14, 15-year-old. And
you wonder what,
right? And you wonder, hey, okay, what happened? So this is why it's important to understand that our environment really does, you know, influence quite a bit. But between 0 and 7, to answer your question, is where the kind of foundation is being laid. And that is nature nurture. It's a combination of what you've inherited, it's a combination of your environment, and it is reinforced. Because remember, the brain likes autopilot. The brain likes to do things the way it always has. The brain has a million things that it needs to do. And so the minute the brain can push something to default, that's the brain's preference. So when you do certain things, you create a pathway, a neural pathway. And that neural pathway gets reinforced the more you do it. And so the more you do it, the more that becomes your reality. And then that's reinforced when everyone says, this is the way this child behaves. And so it's reinforced, it's reinforced. But like I said, for me, what's exciting about all of this is, in as much as I may not vastly change my personality, if I don't, I can change how I utilize what my default is. You know, we call it practicing cognitive flexibility. Cognitive flexibility is saying, this is my default, but I recognize that this environment requires something else. I'll give you an example. My default is I tend to see rational data before I see emotional data. That is my default, right? So I'm the kind of person who walks into a room and notices that, okay, these chairs aren't aligned. Okay, this picture needs to be straightened. I notice rational data. But I can miss out on emotional data. There are people who walk into a room and they're like, whoa, I can feel tension. What's going on? That is their default. But it doesn't, whatever your default is, you can learn the other. So because I know, and for me, this is why I said earlier, self-awareness is a superpower. Because I know, okay, Mucha, you have a tendency, because I'm a type A personality, if we are going to name, if we're going to label each other. Type A personalities are very goal-oriented, go, go, go. So they miss out on people, emotional information. So because I know that,
you also have
I can stop, take a breath, and raise that antenna intentionally. So that I pick up on the emotional data I may miss. So that's why it's important to kind of have an idea of what is your default. Because in as much as we may adapt, we have a default. And here's the thing that's interesting. When we are under stress and under pressure, we go to our default. So no matter how much I've adapted, well, no matter how much I've adapted, I may, because of my circumstances, have adapted towards extroversion. So perhaps I'm an introvert, right? But because of my work, because of my family life, I've now adapted to extroversion. I'm now forcing myself to be more extroverted because that is what is required. But when I'm under pressure, when I'm under stress, I'm going to more default to, I'm going to go back to my default.
So is it that then most of the times people find themselves in the adaptive state and not the default state? Because again, there's this person that I know I am, right? This is me. But then again, there's another way that the society wants to see me, or the society wants me to be. So most of the time, since again, interacting with people and, you know, you're not always alone, so you're somewhat forced to be this other type and not the default type. So do you feel this is where then people get it wrong in terms of me? I'm an extrovert, but really you're an introvert. It's just that you're adapting into extrovertedness.
Yeah, I mean, she said something great, which is self-awareness is everything.
It is, yes.
And again, breaking it down into small portions again helps you know better, because every time we are always learning. Anything that goes through your mind, of course, changes your mind. Anything that goes through your heart changes your life. And you have to be keen about what is going through your heart and what is going through your heart. There are those who would naturally, and 98% of us, I say that, live in an adaptive state. Now, is this adaptive state, is it something that is deliberate? That is question 2A. Because there is the part where I know that I get angry like this. I know I process like this. Then I have decided, okay, fine, then for me to become better, I need to work like this. There's that now whereby there's the expectation I've put on myself. And more often than not, it's an expectation that even no one has told me yet. But I expect myself to be, and so whenever we're getting even into all sorts of relationships, the first thing you always look at is what? Am I in a relationship with a screensaver? Because there's a high chance. Because most of us go through life that way, you know. Yes. It's very interesting because, yes, the brain can learn anything. The brain always wants to find the simplest way to do things. Yeah, the brain is a neuroplastic, you know. It wants to quickly think, okay, now I'm with Winnie, and Winnie behaves like this. Winnie expects me to speak like this, so let me go and behave like this. So more often than not is, how self-aware am I? Secondly, how much have I reconciled with it? Because self-awareness can be scary. Yeah. How much have I reconciled with this reality that this is actually who I am? Am I okay with it? Am I okay with other people not being okay with it?
Yeah, that is the thing. We want people to be okay with us all the time, right?
So if I don't bring all those factors into play, then more often than, because I always say that there has to come a place where I am more comfortable in my skin. Aware though that at times being me can be the most annoying thing. Yes, I have to reconcile that also.
You annoy yourself.
I'll tell you that, you know, if someone loves you, tell them thank you. It might not be as easy as you think. You might not be the most lovable person. So it's not to be, you know, but once I'm able to bring all these things into play and draw a picture and think, okay, this is Victor, this is how I am. Because it's part of that learning, trying to manage it. Remember again, the more I learn, I personally know this, that the more that I learn something and I do it over and over, the more I train myself towards it. There are things in my life that I have to let go of in my default because they were not supposed to be there. There are things in my default that are good. As you said, there's no good or bad, you know, all emotions are good. It's the processing and the expression that makes the difference. Yeah. So I have to come to it. I'll give a simple story. I was born a stammerer. Okay. And I came to learn something that my emotions, if I don't keep them in a particular level, I will stammer. Now, if I'm in a fight, maybe I'm arguing with my wife over something. There's a level I can't allow myself to get angry. Because if I do, I'll begin to stammer. If I begin to stammer, I'll get angry that I'm stammering. Plus angry that she's making me angry. So I have a hybrid of something at the end of the day. So now I'm banging at everyone. Is it me you're angry at? You know? So I had to learn how to keep my emotions at a particular state. And I always know through my heart rate that here I'm going too far and I have to come back. I'm going too far, I have to come back. I did that for so long, it became now natural to me.
You're able to regulate.
I'm able to pick it out and just bring it back down and bring it back down. I know how to breathe, I know what to do, I know who to avoid and when to avoid them. Also, you know, that's part of self-awareness, is to know at times also the one you love the most. Is the
that will annoy you the most.
So they have to come that time when you know the way I am today and the way I'm feeling today. I don't think I need to talk to my mom today. I love her, But no.
Yeah. And I think, I hope that maybe one day all of us can get to that level of self-awareness where, you know, number one, this is who I am, but I'm okay with it. But now the other question is, oh my God, my makeup, because I am crying laughing here. The other question is then, how do you strike a balance in terms of, fine, this is who I am, and I am okay with it. But then again, I expect other people to be okay with it. And if they're not okay with it, then where does that place me? Do I adapt, or do I just continue being okay and be like, if you don't like me, then that's fine. That is a part that I'd want us to unpack. But now, coming back to Abby, because now it's like, Sister, now I'm confused. Now, where do I stand? Let's get to understand, first of all, your default, right? Who is Abby in her default settings?
Overprotective.
Okay.
Overprotective, and I've recently also been aware of being overprotective over my space. So with others, I snapped overprotectiveness over whatever is happening. Yeah. Mother goose. But now I've also come to also be trying to be overprotective over my space. So sometimes I will shut down. Sometimes I will become extremely confident to try and just balance the situation so that it doesn't overpower me. Let me give an example.
Okay, quickly, because we need to go on a break.
Quickly. This one time I was in a boda, and just the crisis that's been going on, but this guy wanted to harass me. And then he thought I was just calm and itakuwa sawa, and he's like, I need you to add me some more fare. I told him no, I am not. So all of a sudden, I became so serious. Ni sawa madam, enda, ni sawa, pole, imeishia hapo. And I just become so overprotective of myself because I realize I can also become very emotional or act very reactively. Yes.
So the question is, how then do you balance and make sure that then these two persons, the adaptive one and the default one, does not clash, and especially with the others around them, and aspects of then, now that you're self-aware, how then do you apply this in your day-to-day interactions? And of course, like Mucha said, emotional intelligence is something that you can learn, right? So then how do you merge all these things to make sure that you are a wholesome person that, you know, can interact very well with other people? Because that also tends to be a very big issue for so many people. So let's take a break, give you some time to digest what we've talked about, because it's a lot, all right? But remember the question that we're asking you, and that is, do you know your personality type, and how does it influence your interactions or your choices? Okay, we'll be looking at your feedback after the short break. Stay with us. This is Your World. All right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. The show is Your World, and what an insightful conversation we're having today. And this is as far as understanding your personality type and also how emotional intelligence comes to play. All right. But much as like you said, these two are not related. Emotional intelligence is a skill anyone can learn. Doesn't really matter what your personality type is. But then again, Musha, there's some people probably who are like, but can we just understand then the default, where the type A, type B, type C, you know, or type D, or all these other types come into play. But before you answer that, how about we look at some of the feedback that you had to say as far as the question that we're asking you, and that is, do you know your personality type, and does that influence your choices, or how does it influence your choices? Let's get to hear what you had to say. So Ekidor Atatjo says, environment around a child as they grow up builds up their personality. Victor mentioned the same, okay. And then Imani Stanley says, I all times contradict myself between introvert, extrovert, and ambivert. All right. And then someone else says, this is Godfrey Mutai, who says, what is personality type in the first place? Okay. So, Bhuja, how about we start there? Yeah. Okay. Godfrey's like, sister, what is personality type? And then we'll go into type A, type B, type C, D, X, because I saw there's also another called X.
Yeah. So, an individual's personality type is really based on a group of traits. Okay. All right. So a group of traits, things that are their default. So when we talk about personality types, as was mentioned earlier, there's a lot of opinions out there, but typically they're grouped into 4 personality types, right? So personality type A, and you know, depending on the different psychological model you use, they can be named different things, but we'll just stick with A, B, C, D, right? Yeah. So personality type A are the goal-oriented, so they're very much about the end result, very focused on the goal. Personality B is relationship-oriented, so they're about people. These are the ones that would be described as the life and, you know, of the party. Yes. And personality A and B are typically extroverted. Okay. Personality type C is task-oriented. So they're very much about the task, the processes, you know, they're very, you know, that's really their focus. Yeah. And these are people who would be introverted, all right? And then the last one are very, you know, also very detail-oriented, and, you know, their approach is to the minute. So C and D would be the ones we'd classify as introverted. Okay. A and B are the ones we'd classify as extroverted. Okay. In other terms, this is where you have the sanguine, the choleric, the melancholic, the phlegmatic. Yeah. All right. So it's really based on your personality traits. All right. And these then form together to give us a personality type. All right. Yes.
Where then do the ambiverts fall? Because A and B, extroverted. C and D, introverted. So for the ambiverts, do we have like all of this, all of the above plus others?
So very rarely do you find someone who is fully one personality type. Okay. All right. So you often are a large portion or a larger portion of a certain personality type, but we have traces of the other personality types as well. All right. So if I use myself, for example, I am typically a type A, but I have very large portions or a percentage of the type B type personality. So I think the answer to your question is that yes, there are people who they're a mix, and that mix then is really around the conversation we've been having about, you know, how you adapt, you know, your adaptive state. And that adaptive state may mean that you are a combination. Okay. Remember, as we said at the start, this is, you know, this is the analysis of people, and the analysis of people is very complicated. It is something that is forever changing. Yeah. If you go online, you find other personality types that say there are 7. You know, personality types, right? Like 16. There's others that say there are 16 personality types. Yeah. But I think what we can probably agree across all the personality types is that we have the kind of those who lean towards extroversion and those who lean towards introversion. I think those are, and then yes, the ones who are a mixture of all of the above. But yes, so I think that's briefly what I would say about personality types. It's about certain traits. So that means that people who are a certain personality type tend to behave in a certain way. And I use the word tend to because again, it's a social science, right? And social sciences are not like maths where 1 + 1 = 2. Social sciences are the study of people and people's behavior, and that is, you know, it's not as clear cut. But yeah, so what we'd say is that people who are a type A personality or people who are a type B personality or C or D typically behave in a certain way. Typically respond in a certain way. You know what I mean? So it's typically. But what happens is you adapt, right? You adapt. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in because what emotional intelligence does is I recognize that I have a default or I typically respond this way, but I can learn, right, how to leverage my strengths, but at the same time, how to support my areas of development. So I gave myself as an example earlier that as a type A, I'm very goal-oriented, which means I can miss out on the people data, on the emotional data. So because I know that, emotional intelligence helps me to pause, reflect, and connect with the emotional data that I could miss.
But what if you can't? Like, that is just not in you. And I use this because this is a term that a lot of people say. It is just not in me. I really can't connect well with people. But again, you need to connect with people because you're not like an island. Then what happens in that situation, Victor? You just can't. You try, but, well, imekata.
You can't have an absolute statement like that. It's a dangerous statement to say.
Okay.
You just can't connect with people, you know. There has to be a particular person who you can connect with. But people who say that statistically, most of them have a problem connecting with themselves.
Okay, so comes back to self-awareness.
Yeah, most of them you find that if you really ask them, well, then what are you really looking for? You know, let's talk about maybe someone is trying to date and you're asking them, okay, then who are you really looking for? They have no idea what they really
as
want.
long as they are nice people, that's it.
They give you some funny answers because I've not taken time to process and think, okay, what do I really want? You know, so you can't really be the kind of person that I don't really connect with anyone else. I think that it's just that you've not been aware enough. It's like a socket and a plug, you know. But if I understand the kind of plug that I am, then I know which socket I get into. It's as simple as that, you know. And I have to reconcile again. I always say to people that I have to reconcile that not everyone, of course, will be compatible to me. Not everyone will be able to go with me for a long journey. But if I'm emotionally intelligent, I can accommodate people and I know how to accommodate them. But I know already the boundary that this person, we can't go that far. I know I can't bring them this close. But when they are with me in that moment, they will not feel as though they are being pushed away. Because remember, again, we develop our boundaries based on how strong emotionally we are. Emotionally intelligent people have got better emotional boundaries. Those without emotional intelligence or low emotional intelligence tend to have what we call walls. Walls and boundaries are very different. Because walls are built out of fear. Boundaries are built out of strength.
It says that. Okay. I'm just like, come on now.
That's the same reaction I have because I'm thinking, I'm a people person. Like I literally talk to everyone. I will relate to anyone. I feel like I am one person who can get through to people, and people are thinking, how did you talk to them? How are they laughing with you? And I'm like, it's very easy. I just said hello. What do you mean? You can't approach them. So,
but then again, you also have like a wall. Is like
I do have my boundaries. But sometimes I feel like I can be too nice. That some people confuse the niceness for maybe attraction or something. Like I'd relate so well for you, you'd confuse sometimes. I'll create boundaries with some people, but there's just a way I am jovial, I am chirpy. So sometimes you think, oh my God, she checks up on me, she smiles at me every day, maybe she likes me. I am not there. I am just a nice person. And I have encountered that a lot. So someone starts pouring out their feelings and you're thinking, what did I say that might have led you to think I was
very
interested
strong feeling
in?
that she's communicating that to someone right now. She's telling me right now. But please,
Dude, I'm not feeling you. No, I'm not feeling you. I'm just a nice person.
Get the message. Please get the message.
Get the message.
Okay. Winnie, can I just come to this question, this statement you made? And I really want to agree 100% that we cannot afford to make such blanket statements that I
Yes.
can't get along.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It's not. It means you can't be bothered to. That's what it means. You can't
There's
be
the
bothered
difference.
to.
Yeah.
Everyone can learn to get along with others, to build better relationships, right? And really, it's just about understanding that we are all part of, in our interactions in life, we're going to interact with other individuals. And the reality is, no man is an island. Not only that, you know, no man should want to be an island, right? Our ability to connect, or our desire to connect, is inbuilt within us. Now, what you may find is, again, depending on your type, depending on your personality, those who tend towards introversion, maybe they are the ones who want to connect one-on-one.
Okay.
Then there are those who maybe tend towards extroversion. You want to connect one-to-many. That's okay, but we all need connection.
Yeah.
And I think that oftentimes when people have those kind of blanket statements, those are born out of those walls you're talking about. Where either because of experiences, hurts in the past, they build up this wall that says, no, I'm not putting myself out there. I can't get along with people. Everyone can learn to get along. And getting along doesn't mean everyone has to be your friend. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that you have to like them. It just means that you can have respectful relationships. You can interact with people respectfully. And it's a crucial skill at work. It's a crucial skill at work.
Because you're not working alone.
No, you're not. So even if you feel that this is your default, the reality is, for you to be successful at work, successful in business, you need to be able to interact with people. And so you have to learn. You'll have to learn to step out of what has become your norm, what has become your default because of whatever has happened, and figure out how to connect with people. Because really that's what will influence, to a very big part, how successful you are at work and in life in general.
So then again, for someone who's watching us and thinking, hi, but maybe self-awareness zero, nothing, okay, I don't know who I am, or maybe they're confused because, like we said earlier on, adaptive and then default, you know, and maybe they thought the adaptive part is who they are, but really they aren't, you know, they are on this other spectrum. So then how do you get to that point of self-awareness? Is there a class to go to? Is there a test? You know?
Actually, there are very many schools of thought in getting there. You go to which one works for you. But one thing I've always said is that the first thing to do is to stop. Stop. Because we are always on the move. Just take time and stop. Take a deep, just stop. And I was telling people once in a forum that if the time of COVID you didn't stop to find out exactly who you are, then you're in trouble.
There's a problem.
because it's actually good to stop. And I say this because you know, again, if I look at, let me say, even if I look at families, you know, if I look at maybe my wife and I, you know, there are things that maybe come and clash within the marriage, and you find you're fighting over things that naturally you shouldn't be fighting about. You know, you're going to work and you're fighting about things you shouldn't be fighting about. Take time, slow down, stop. Take a brutal stock of your life. The quality of life you live is always determined by the quality of relationship that you have. Always. Do a brutal stock. Do I like Winnie, honestly? And why? Honestly, I can't stand Winnie. Why can't I stand Winnie? The problem is not Winnie, because I was there before Winnie came. So there has to be something. So what is it? Why do I have this issue? Why do people say these things to me and they take me off, you know? There are some statements, if someone says it takes you off, you know? You are happy, you are laughing, one word comes out and you've lost it. Yeah, why do such statements hurt me? Why is it that if I want maybe a hug and my wife says, I'm folding clothes now? Why would I get hurt with that? Yeah. Why would I read that as,
you
know,
are denying me my life?
Yeah, you know. Then how do I read what I receive? Why is it that if my friend doesn't invite me for their party, I feel very sad? You know? Why do I assume that I'm that important to them? What is it? The question I have to ask myself. So personally, as a relationship coach, I take people through what I call a brutal relationship audit. And a brutal relationship audit is being brutal enough to understand that, first of all, I might have 99 friends, and none of them are actually my friends.
Absolutely.
And I must be bold enough to be willing. Am I willing to start afresh? Something that I think everyone here will agree is that knowing someone is scary But knowing yourself is more scary.
Terrifying.
Oh. Okay.
That's the most scary thing. That's the most scary thing, knowing yourself. And at times I find people who maybe, if I'm joining someone who's going through a form of a breakup or whatever, if you're joining them, the first thing no one wants to hear is that the reason why you chose this particular person is because you have not answered the question about who you really are. If you can't answer the question of who you really are, you will choose this person 7 other times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before you blame someone for what they have done, take time and realize, I say yes. Of all the people God made, I said yes to this one. Of all I said yes to this one. What does it say about me? More than what does it say about them.
It's true.
3.5 billion people used to share this one. This is the one that I want. I say yes to that one.
Why?
Yeah, the reason why. It's more about me than it is them.
Yeah. Okay. And Mucha, and then when it comes to workplaces, right? Because like you said, emotional intelligence is something that anyone can learn. And probably someone is watching us and thinking, Sawa Basi, where do I start? Where do I begin? Especially for those people who remember the blanket statement that we said, I try to connect with people, but I really can't. I really can't connect with these people. Because like you said, also, it affects your workplace interactions and even outside work, right? So where do we begin? You know, what are some of the steps to just getting to understand my emotions, being okay with them, and also have that help you in your work?
Allow me to start, and you know, I really love what you've just talked about, this idea of, you know, it's more about me than it is about others.
Else. Yes.
You know, I like to describe or think of us as, use the analogy of an iceberg, right? So with an iceberg, what is above the surface is very small in comparison to what is beneath the surface, right? So what shows up in our behavior is actually just a reflection of what is deep down inside. And many of us are actually afraid to peel back the layers, to really understand who we are, to be brutally honest about why we are showing up the way we're showing up. Why it is that when someone pushes that button, I just react. And so for me, you know, if I'm, as an emotional intelligence coach, when I'm working with clients, it's starting with building that self-awareness. And it starts with asking yourself questions around, you know, who am I deep down inside? So a good exercise someone can try with if they want to start on this journey at home is just adding 15 minutes of self-reflection to the end of every day. And there are questions you ask yourself. So the first question you ask yourself is, what was my emotional temperature throughout the course of the day? All right? So what was my emotional temperature? Just take a moment and reflect and, you know, just ask yourself, what was my emotional temperature throughout the day? And then where I notice highs, what were the triggers? When I notice lows, what were the triggers
as well?
All right. So what I'm trying to do is get to understand what is it that is the trigger. And when I look at what those triggers are, I then ask myself that deeper question, why? You know, they say you should say why like 5 times, right?
Yes.
Why? Why? All right. So, okay, my emotional low was when Winnie said, you know, what she said. Okay, why? Why?
Okay.
Why?
Oh, it's
because
like,
is it really about what Winnie said?
Or is it about...
And when we are willing to take that moment to reflect and dig deeper, what happens is you begin to identify patterns. And you see that actually, I had that same response and it wasn't Winnie. Oh, so wait a minute. Maybe it's actually not about Winnie. So is it about the question? Is it about what they said? Is it the statement? And so we just do a lot of work around digging deeper to understand why. Remember what I said earlier, your emotions are data. Your emotions are actually a God-given gift. It's a message from you to you, telling you, pay attention.
Something is happening.
Something is going on. I liken emotions to the fuel light that comes on when you're driving your car. You wouldn't ignore it. Why do you ignore your emotions? But what we do is we want to just look at the surface. You know, just look at the surface. I'm angry. Okay. No. Why? Why am I angry? What else am I feeling? So it's doing that audit, and when you do it often enough, you begin to identify patterns. Now, self-awareness is not enough in itself. It's the start. Because now that I know, I then take steps to do something about it. Remember, emotional intelligence is about connecting with, it's about decoding, then it's about utilizing that information, right? And we have the power to rewire the patterns that exist.
Yeah.
Earlier, I talked about the fact that the brain likes default. The brain likes to do things the way you always have.
Yeah.
But you can rewire those patterns. You actually can disrupt a pattern.
Yeah.
So I may identify. I'll give you an example. Some years ago, my boys told me that I shout too much. Mommy, you know you shout too much. And, you know, they found me on a day where I was being a little reflective. And so I received that feedback. My default was to say, I only shout because you guys make me shout.
Yes.
But they found me in a moment where I was reflecting and thinking to myself that this EQ stuff I teach out there, I need to practice it at home, right?
Yeah.
And so because I'm now aware that that could be my default, I am mindful of it. Not only am I mindful of it, when I start tracing my patterns, I recognize when I am more likely to. I recognize what are the things that trigger.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a good example. I realize that as the day wears on, because I'm tired, I'm more likely to shout.
Yes.
Okay, so that's great information to know.
Yeah.
Now that I know, my children go to bed at a set time. Because the likelihood of a shouting match is, you know, the chances of shouting increase the longer they are awake. Because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Right? If you think about it, as a coach, you know you're giving of yourself all day.
Yeah.
And so you have a tendency to arrive home and you're kind of empty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So as you recognize some of these defaults, you start putting in place strategies to navigate. When I find that I really am empty because of the day that I've had, when I get home, the first thing I do is actually go and take a shower. And in that shower, I'm just decompressing.
Yes.
So that by the time I now am available to my boys, I am available.
Yeah.
But I also know that, okay, this availability must have a timeline because otherwise
shouting
I mean, I'm just really trying to illustrate this idea that the more I connect with myself, the more I recognize and I can start putting into place strategies. So the first thing is developing the habit of introspection. The second thing is developing an openness for feedback.
Hey, that is where the
right?
So
remember, I learned that I shout because my children told me I shout.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's
sometimes
work.
Feedback is hard.
It's like,
especially from those you love.
Yes.
But people who are high in emotional intelligence actually crave it because they recognize there's the you that you see. And there's that you that you don't see, that others see. And so I go out of my way to ask, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Is there something that you see that I do that you feel is holding me back?
Yeah.
Is there something that you think I don't do that is holding me back? So people who are high in emotional intelligence, because they want to be self-aware, because self-awareness is something they pride, they will go out and ask for that feedback.
You know, there was a time I asked my friends that question some time back. I was like, okay. I mean, I know their response comes from love.
Yes.
They're like, you are really, really fun person. You're generous. You're this, you're that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes you can also be a little bit selfish. You know, so I'm like, ouch, but I give a lot.
Yeah.
You don't see.
Yeah.
You know,
And when we're asking for that feedback, we need to be open.
To receive.
Now, not everything that comes is useful, right? So even as you receive it, you sift.
Yeah.
And there's some that you just reject and say, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
But you must be open, right?
Okay.
Open to the fact that, whew, okay, that hurt.
Yeah.
That pinched. It's okay for it to hurt because I want to grow, right? And I can only grow if I'm open to hearing where are the areas that I'm not demonstrating emotional intelligence. Where are the areas that I'm not doing so well? And then I guess the third way that you can get feedback is to do an assessment, right? So there are assessments out there that you can do, whether they're emotional intelligence assessments, whether they're personality assessments. And what those do is, you know, as Africans, we have a pass-fail mentality. That we just need to get rid of. Because it's not a pass-fail. It's information. It's knowing. So when I know that I have a tendency to miss out on emotional data, it's not a pass-fail. There are strengths in being someone who is goal-oriented. There's strengths to that. But there's areas of weaknesses, right?
As well.
So an assessment helps me to identify that these are my tendencies. I have a tendency to behave this way. okay, now I know that. So it's not pass-fail, it's insight. And then I can use that insight. But the goal of self-awareness isn't just to look at yourself. It's to then say, okay, how do I use that information going forward? How can I feed that? You know, I like talking about the idea of feeding forward. How do I feed that information forward so that it benefits, you know, me as I interact?
With other people.
And what fuels that? Remember earlier I talked about emotional intelligence being 3 parts. Know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. Know yourself is self-awareness. So now that I know, choose yourself is self-management. How do I use that information? And then give yourself is self-direction and purpose. Why?
Hey, the
because
why.
if the why is not clear, if the why is not clear, I will not change. If the why is not clear, I will continue saying, no, this is the way I was. This is the way I am.
Yeah, you need to be okay with it.
So you need to understand your why, because that's what then fuels your ability to use this emotional insight to make different choices.
Okay. All right. On the note, how about we take a break? Yes. And then, of course, when we cover, we'll also get to understand. So fine. Now that I know who I am, right? After doing the work, okay? Not just that he's from here now, say I know who I am and then end of story. No. Now that you know who you are and you know your level of emotional intelligence, how then do you merge this? You know, to make sure that then your interactions are good, okay? With other people, don't just say, yeah, I can't interact with people. No, okay? And how do you use it to your advantage, all right? So let's take that short break. Of course, we'll come back with more of your feedback. But again, like we said, if you have any question that you want to pass on to the panel, feel free to do so. The numbers will be down on your screen, but that will only happen after we come back from the break. Stay with us. Right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. Last phase of the show. It's a lot that we're learning today, and I hope that you are learning as well. And of course, given the question that we asked you today, do you know your personality type, and how does it influence your choices? Once again, do you know personality type, and how does it influence your choices? Keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at lubembe_Winnie if you want to call in. Do so. The numbers are down on your screen. And of course, ask any question that you have as far as personality type is concerned. Why is it important for you to know your personality type, and how does emotional intelligence then come in? All right. Now, there's a question that I keep asking a lot, right? And that is, so fine. So then, are there instances where I am self-aware, right? I know who I am, all those things. But then again, it comes to clash with other people and in terms of like interactions and stuff. Because, for instance, those people who are like me, I keep telling the truth. Maybe it's like, whether you take it or not, I will tell you as it is. But then again, on this other end, there's this person who's like, fine, tell me the truth, but then tell me in a certain way, you know? So then do we get instances where these two somewhat tend to clash? And is it more of a case of emotional intelligence, or is it more of your personalities just don't get along?
I mean, I think it's probably a combination of both. You're not really high in emotional intelligence if you are not able to tell people, give people feedback in a way that they will receive it best. It's not emotional intelligence to just say it how it is if you're not concerned about how they
respond,
right?
Okay.
Remember, emotional intelligence is not just being aware, it's then using that information appropriately. Right? And appropriately means you're focusing on a win-win. I get what I need, but Winnie also gets what she needs. If my focus is just, I need to tell it because, and you know, I'm just shooting it from the hip, as people say, that's not practicing emotional intelligence. It isn't really. Because a key part of emotional intelligence is actually empathy. And empathy is about putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It's about, you know, making an effort to connect. So there is a way you can give feedback. And especially feedback that maybe isn't necessarily positive, but it's the how. A person who's high in emotional intelligence makes the effort to understand the person they're interacting with, to think of how should I share it, to think of when should I share it. Is this the kind of thing I share in a group meeting? Or is this the kind of thing I pull you aside and say, by the way, I needed to give you this information? That is emotional intelligence. So it's not enough to just know it, right? It's not enough to understand or to pick up on. It's also how. The how is just as important. And so is the why. So it's the what, it's the how, and it's the why. All of these combined make up practicing emotional intelligence. And so if you are someone who's maybe lower on empathy, and you tend to just want to say, then it's about taking a breath and thinking, okay, how can I put this across in such a way that it's received well? Because remember, the outcome you want isn't just to say it so you injure someone. The outcome you want is to be able to impact them in a positive way that helps your relationship. And so if I have that at the back of my mind, it influences the how.
All right. And so, Abby, in terms of then understanding who you are, then how does this impact, let's say, your relationships at work, personal relationships, families, and all those things? Do you also have instances where people are like, you know, like it comes to actually clash? And how do you handle that?
I love giving people their space.
I
read the room a lot, and what am I saying? Emotions. I read emotions very fast, and I easily adjust to what you're feeling and what you want. So most times I realize some people just need a minute, need some space. So I give people their space a lot. You do what you need to do, and I'll be here if you need me. Just making sure I've told you, I'll be here if you need me, but you take your space. So I read the room. I'd say I read the room very easily. At work, well, maybe many would describe me as child. I don't know. Everyone is all over the place because I remember
what is the
last
that you get
place I was working. 2 weeks in, I was saying hi. I was working with a friend, and we went downstairs, and I was saying hi to like 15 people, and this guy is like, "You've been here for 2 weeks. I don't even know that person. How do you even?" And I have something. Hey, you remember what we talked about? And they're thinking,
but you've only been here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you've only been here for 2 weeks. How you? I don't even know their name. You know. So I'm very interactive. I want to include everyone, and for me, I strive in a place with people. I feed off energy.
People's energy.
I love just being around people and just interacting with people. That is me. So it makes it easier
for you to
for
work.
me, yes.
But then again, do you get instances where then people don't know their boundaries?
Yes.
You know, it's because
very much.
is always nice
very
to
much.
us and stuff, you know?
And now what happens is on these, I say I'm a sanguine, but I have my melancholic side. So I'll come in some days and just don't talk to me, just let me recharge. But everyone will just come and expect you to. And now the problem is I can easily get angered.
So then when you show
get
that,
pissed off. So when I show that, someone is like, okay, maybe she's not that good. Maybe she's not. But I also make it vocal. Just give me my space. Not today. Not today.
So then, do you get yourself to a point where some people will be? So you find yourself hiding that part of you because you do not want people to feel bad.
I don't want to. But I also realized I have to be me. If that is what is manifesting today, I will do my best to accommodate you, but you also need to understand this is where I'm at right now. So accommodate me. I will. Yes, I am hyper. I am friendly. I am maybe sometimes all over. But today I just want to be composed. Please don't get shocked. It's just a phase of me.
All right. You communicate.
Yes, I communicate. Yes.
Okay. So Victor, someone maybe be like, so then how do I set these boundaries in terms of, yes, this is who I am. This is how I love to interact with people at workplaces, maybe in a not professional setting, but also set boundaries in terms of, yes, understanding this is my personality type, but also understand there's this thing called boundaries as well that we all need.
Yeah, because remember that boundaries are personal, and you're the owner of your boundaries. And never assume that it's someone else's responsibility to know where your boundaries are.
Okay.
The one thing that is very key, let's say that first of all, is don't take everything too personally also.
Okay.
Emotional intelligence depicts that I'm also able to understand those who have low emotional intelligence and accommodate them also when they want to come in, but to train them about where my boundaries are. Because relationships are about who's the best, who can manage best. You know, so I look at it like a house. You know, so if I know myself, and you know, and you come into my house, there are people who you'll talk to at the gate. There are those you'll talk to at the front door. There are those who you'll sit with in the sitting room. Yes. There are those who you'll allow to the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, there are those who you'll allow to use the bathroom that is for everyone. There are those who you'll allow to the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are those who you'll talk to them from where they are.
Yeah.
All these people, when they sit down with you, if you want to know that you have got the difference between walls and boundaries, is if all people sit down, they'll say one thing about you that is the same. It's the level and the depth that differs.
Okay.
So if naturally I'm a person who's funny, I like cracking jokes, this whole team will say that guy cracks jokes.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now their jokes I'll crack with the one who's in the master bedroom, but are different than I'm cracking with the guy at the gate. Yeah. But they're all the same, you know.
Yeah.
So there has to be that straight line. But I have to understand also as a person, what are my home keys? And one thing that human beings never understand is what are their home keys. Because no matter which type of computer you use, the home keys are the same.
Yep.
All of us have got home keys. So I have to come to the place and really, you know, and really process and think, these are my home keys. And naturally, this is how I am. Like she said, you know, okay, there are moments when I'll have time when I want to crack jokes, the moment I want to take time by myself. Who am I accountable to? Because the problem and the burden that comes to us is I want to be accountable to people I shouldn't be accountable to. So I want to now waste time telling the entire village that now I want me time. Why the entire village you want me time?
You can't tell us.
The entire village was saying now I want a break. I'm taking a break. Who are you telling? You know, so you have to know again who are you accountable to? Who should know the phases that I'm in? There are those who should not even know. There are times when I'm home, as she said, you know, being a coach, there are days that are draining, you know. So you know you've had a long week, a long day. I get home and I don't want to answer any calls. I don't want to talk to anyone. You know, I might be staying with, you know, my mom came to visit, and there are times I'll just say hi to her and say, "Are you okay? Good?" And I don't want to even talk to her because I am out. But now who do I start telling? I enter the house and now I've had a long day, I will not talk to you, give me myself. You call me, sorry I can't answer now. I've had a stressful day, I want me time. No, I have to know who am I accountable to. Now that the boundaries depict, so I go to the one in the master bedroom and I say, I'm on burnout now. So this discussion, let's have it later. There are those who will call, I look at the phone and ignore. I won't answer it. And I'm not being a bad person. The problem at times is when you're getting our own space and managing ourselves, we think that I'm being a bad person. When I'm saying no, I'm not being a bad person. The difference between selfishness and self-interest. They are two different words. So I have to balance it. And something just to add to what we're talking about, giving information and giving feedback. There's a system I like to use, which is +2 - 1.
Okay.
Yeah, +2 - 1.
All right.
If you're giving someone information and you're giving them negative feedback, always begin with 2 positive things.
Okay.
2 positive things means that you've taken time to analyze them and realize that they are not the thing. What they are doing wrong, there is more to them. I've taken time to know that there is more to you than all this. So if I give you 2 good things, what am I doing? I'm focusing on the good in you. Then I'm telling you, but if you rectify this, that person never feels as though you are trying to kill them. You know, so it's also good to have +2 - 1. Whenever I have my wife saying 2 good things about me,
okay, there's a but coming.
It comes.
Okay, and then also receiving it is as important as
and also being able to receive feedback from those people you don't like. But so not everything should be personal. You may meet someone who doesn't really care and tell you what they think. You must learn how to separate data from the person.
From the person.
Sift it through.
I like
Sometimes
that.
your enemies might tell the truth.
The truth?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
malice,
More
they
than
can
your
tell you the
friends
absolute
sometimes.
truth.
Yeah.
So sift at times, this is information. Is it true? Let me ignore the person.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have to be friends, but as long as you're not enemies.
We're good. Okay. So Mosha, then, let's say someone is watching us and thinking, so then, are there characteristics that people who are emotionally intelligent maybe show as compared to those of us who are not?
Yeah.
And then also applying emotional intelligence when it comes to leadership. Because there's some leaders who are like me, if I show like any teeny tiny bit of weakness, people will actually, you know, depict me as a bad leader. Or if I'm not assertive, if I'm not shouting all the time or giving commands all the time, then it means I'm not a really good leader to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me start with the first. You know, what are some of the characteristics of an individual who is emotionally intelligent? So the first is that they're able to pick up on emotional data.
Yeah.
We call that they have high emotional literacy. So, you know, when we're growing up as kids, we talk about literacy in the sense of the words that someone is building up. A person who's high in emotional intelligence has emotional literacy. They can use a vocabulary as far as emotions that goes beyond just good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, they're able to really connect with what they're feeling and articulate it. They're also able to recognize patterns. So that means they're able to identify the patterns that are their default, right? So they know that when this happens, I have a tendency to do this. When someone says something like this, I have a tendency to do that. When I'm feeling this, I have a tendency. So they're able to pick up on the patterns that exist.
Yeah.
A person who's high in emotional intelligence is able to make decisions. So they're able to weigh up the pros and cons of anything and make decisions that are not just in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? So they're able to think, okay, so if I do this, what is the consequence of that? If I do that, what is the consequence of that?
Okay.
They're able to then, you know, use this emotional insight they've gained as they make their decisions. They realize that decision making is rational, it's also emotional. So they pick up on both the rational data and the emotional data.
Yeah.
Individuals who are high in emotional intelligence tend towards optimism. So they see opportunities, they see possibilities.
Okay.
Right? And what's interesting about optimism is we look at optimism like it's a trait. But actually, optimism is a skill. You can learn to be optimistic.
Yeah.
So people who are high in emotional intelligence, they see possibilities. They understand that there's always options. No matter how stuck I feel, there's always options. All right? People who are high in emotional intelligence have empathy. Empathy towards others and empathy towards self.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
they are able to really tune in to how they are feeling, and they're able to understand that, okay, I need a timeout, I need a break, I need to kind of refuel, I need to nurture.
Yeah.
People who are high in emotional intelligence are clear about their purpose. And what happens is their purpose actually drives their behavior. So I make choices today that are rooted in my purpose, that are rooted in my ultimate objective. Right? When I look at my kids and parent, I'm parenting not just in the moment, I'm parenting on the basis that I want to have a strong relationship with them when they are older. Right? So people who are high in emotional intelligence are not just in the moment.
No, people.
They are able to really think about, okay, what is the long term? So their why is really clear for them. And then lastly, people who are high in emotional intelligence are driven internally. So they have what we call intrinsic motivation as opposed to extrinsic. So really life is about them outward as opposed to outside inward, right? So those are some of the ways that people who are emotionally intelligent, those are some of the characteristics. How does that show up? It shows up in the way they interact with others. It shows up in the way they do their work. It shows up in the relationships they build. It shows up in how effective they are. It shows up in their understanding about life and life satisfaction. It shows up in, how they take care of their well-being. So it shows up in a number of ways, but those are really the key competencies of emotional intelligence. And the great thing about each of these is they're learnable, right? They're learnable. I may be low in exercising optimism. I can learn.
Yeah.
Right? I can develop the habit of seeing options, because optimism is just seeing options. Optimism isn't saying that everything is right all the time. It's not always being happy. No.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's always seeing options. It's saying, hey, right, this one has really done a number on me. Okay,
but
what options do I have?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I may be low on recognizing my purpose or understanding my why. I can develop that.
Yeah.
Right? I like to think of these EQ competencies I've described, and for the model I use, there are 8 of them. I like to describe these as muscles, right? So they're just different muscles, and when you work on them, you strengthen those muscles.
Yeah. Okay.
You also asked about leadership.
Leadership, yes.
I think that leaders need to recognize one thing, first of all, that this season of leadership as a command and control function no longer exists.
Yes.
Right? It no longer exists. That is the old style of leadership, and it is not effective. As a matter of fact, research shows that leaders who are high in emotional intelligence are more successful, and not just successful in building relationships, but successful as far as the bottom line is concerned. Studies have been done. Leaders who are more emotionally intelligent actually get better bottom line results. Right? Money in the bank as far as the success of the organization. Why is that? Because at the bottom end, the ultimate thing is people do better when they are feeling better. That's just the honest truth. People perform better in organizations when they are feeling better.
Yeah.
And feeling better doesn't mean that you get anything goes. No. Actually, leaders who are high in empathy actually have very clear boundaries. As you said earlier, emotional intelligence is about setting those boundaries. And what people do is they respond better because they know where they stand. They know where the line is. So for leaders, this idea that I must be seen as, in command, actually that's an old school type of thinking. Successful leaders today understand that actually showing some vulnerability is a strength because people feel they can connect with you. Oh wow, okay, this person actually is real. We connect better with leaders we feel are real than leaders who just look like they live in some ivory tower. Right?
You can't get to that.
People give of their discretionary effort when they work with leaders who are high in empathy. When you know that, you know what, my boss, goes out of their way to see things from my perspective. If I'm running late, I know that they will understand that there are circumstances that could have happened. When people work in that environment, they give more of themselves. They give more of their discretionary effort. And discretionary effort has dollar value.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Organizations where leaders are low in emotional intelligence, there's high incidences of what we call presenteeism. Presenteeism is we are here,
but we're not here.
But we are not here. And that also has a dollar value.
Yeah.
Right? That actually contributes negatively towards the overall objective. So at the end of the day, I'm part of an organization called 6 Seconds. Allow me to just take back a little. I'm part of an organization called 6 Seconds. 6 Seconds is the world's largest emotional intelligence network. And some years ago, we did some research that looked at the key drivers of performance, right? So we looked across the globe, across the, different organizations, depending on, it doesn't matter what size of the organization, doesn't matter what industry, to identify what are the drivers. Because what we realized is that these drivers really influence how engaged people are. Right? And we identified 5 key drivers. Trust being the largest contributor. And trust is an emotion.
It is, yeah.
Change, teamwork, motivation, and execution.
Okay.
None of those are really technical.
No.
Those are really based around how people feel.
Yes.
And what we know is that leaders who are high in emotional intelligence are able to build trust. They're able to ignite motivation. They're able to drive execution, they're able to cultivate teamwork, and they're able to help the team navigate change.
Okay.
So EQ is no longer a nice to have for leaders.
Yeah.
It isn't. The reality is we have a group of individuals who entered the workforce who said, you know what, if I'm not feeling this place, I'm leaving this place.
The Gen Z,
those days of people who would suffer through work, those days are gone. And leaders need to wake up to that reality.
Yeah, character development. Yeah. For employees. Okay, then Victor, so then how do you apply this in relationships? For example, family, because sometimes people struggle with boundaries, setting boundaries, especially when it comes to family, because you're just like, by their family. They have access, you know. But then again, having this access sometimes is where there's the biggest, you know, problem, right? So then how do you set this? Boundaries, of course, applying emotional intelligence, but also being self-aware.
Is to realize paper 1A.
Okay.
is that in the family that I have come from, as a person, that we are different, all of us, based on the seasons that my mom had and the seasons that my dad had.
Right.
That has shaped us into individual people. Whereby I know I have siblings who maybe don't, who can cross some lines. I have those who are more reserved. All those are part of that whole dynamic. So I have to understand my own first before I start looking at who's. Then I can train the next person.
Okay.
Secondly, again, I talk about, you know, when guys get, you know, now when we get married and now the in-laws come in.
Yeah.
And now I always have a very strong fear personally whenever I see that someone got married today and they're best friends with the in-laws tomorrow, and they crossing like this.
Yeah.
And you find that those ones ban each other. In a short time, they ban each other.
Yeah.
Why is it so? It's because they didn't take time to understand that we are very different, and I need to take time to understand you also. Let's build the relationship.
Okay.
Trust is a very powerful. You know, we can never underestimate how powerful it is. And trust is built. You know, you cannot choose to trust someone.
Yeah.
You don't come to today, I choose to trust you. No. You can't do that. You know, there is a process.
Yeah.
And trust comes with vulnerability, whereby I'm okay being vulnerable with you. I trust that my tears are safe with you. So in a family, I have to begin to gauge and begin to learn that, okay, then who can come close? Who can't come this close? Then I get also with children also. There's something I like saying in marriage forums. I like saying that there's nothing like a family bed. You know? Whereby the children also must understand within the house as well their boundaries. But me and their mother came first. Yes. So there's no that there's a family bed. There's no family bed and there's no family bedroom. Nothing like that exists. That doesn't exist.
The child comes first.
No.
They take a break.
No. Marriage precedes children. Yeah. I like saying that they're tourists.
Yeah.
So
By the way, they just come.
They come, spend your money. Spend your money and go. I love my children in case they're watching. So I have to know also. So I have to know first of all. Then, but the biggest skill of all this is when a man and a woman come together in marriage. The understanding first of all that I had my boundaries, she had hers, and the boundaries that she will maintain through, and the boundaries that I will maintain through, because we cannot kill our individualization because of that unity. That's what makes it rich.
Okay.
That she has a life, I have a life. Then the lives come to a place where they meet. So there has to be that part of it. So there's a part of the two of you coming together. What are your boundaries? From when you date also. It's good someone knows this is as far as you go with me. With me, I'll communicate this way. I don't like how you talk to me. Because also, very importantly, is have high emotional intelligence. I will train you on my boundaries. Let's not assume that people understand boundaries easily. No. How many people on the road now can turn where there's a double yellow line? Double yellow line.
Yes.
They've been there for 15 years.
Yes.
And then turn double yellow
Turn.
line. Yeah. So never assume that someone understands your boundaries.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence is I know my boundaries and I can communicate to you respectfully. In case I feel you've crossed them, I'll go back and take responsibility and say, I never told you. Let me train you now.
Okay.
Ukiniongelesha kuja pole pole.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what about like parents and child? Because I think in our African setting, it's like the parent, whatever the parent says goes, you know? So I think most of us have grown up knowing that this is how things operate. And I think that is why we actually use things that we've learned on how then we interact with other people, and again brings a lot of problems.
But again, look at statistics now. If you look at adults now, and you look at how they were raised, there are two types of groups you'll see. The ones who had parents who were emotionally intelligent and sober, parents who allowed children to express and taught them expression was not bad. The problem with Africans, the expression was bad. That's the first thing. Secondly, an African child was taught to disappear. you know, to disappear. There was never a sense of value being given to them while you're growing up. The visitor had higher value than you. You'd be kicked out of your room without consultation.
Yes.
Because so you find that all those things denied us. Now, if I look at adults now who I deal with more often than not, you find that why are people now struggling even at the workplace? Why do we have low emotional capacity? You know, why is it that I can easily walk out of things? Why are we giving up faster? Why are you trying to? You take a whole year telling someone go into business, go into business. The business is in their head. It's in their head since they were 16. They have never jumped out on it. Why? It is because that parenting gap. A parent who can allow the kids to express themselves according to their age. According to their age. That child always develops very high emotional intelligence because they know I can speak what I feel. And I've seen this in my house also. I've seen that at times house helps can fight with my kids. Why? Because my kids will speak what they feel. I've taught them, say what you feel. Expression is fine. But say an African parent, if a child is playing near you won't even have
that thing in your head.
Yet translation is that if a child is playing next to you, the child is saying, I'm safe around you. That's the translation. So it's important for us parents now just to give that space. That old school parenting and leadership that she said.
Okay. All right. And on to you. Hey, time is far much spent, so I'll take like 10 seconds. Victor, I'll take that as a parting shot. You know, as far as just wrapping this whole thing up. Yes. What would you say? Especially to someone who's like, yeah, me, I'm like Abby, but then again, I'm also confused. What would you say?
Know yourself. Just take time to yourself first, and you can never give from an empty cup. I keep reminding myself that to give, I need to have something that I am giving. So also pour into yourself, find things that edify you, that make you happy. And because personally, I give so much, find time to also give yourself. Make the love you give, just try and give it to yourself. And now it becomes easier to even deal with day-to-day things. And even when you're highly reactive to things, just always remember every action has a reaction.
I like that. Okay, Mucha, literally 10 seconds.
Emotional intelligence is a skill. And for me, I believe it is a life-changing skill. And so I'd encourage anyone listening to invest in it. And if you don't know where to start with self-awareness. Start with just getting into the habit of reflection, getting into the habit of introspection. Check in with yourself every day, 15 minutes. Do it for the next 2 weeks, and I assure you, you will see the difference. Because you will start picking up on patterns, and then you can ask yourself, is this pattern working for me? And if it's not, you can start taking the steps towards changing that pattern. I really believe, self-awareness is a superpower.
It really is.
It really is.
It really is.
So begin right there. Doesn't have to be complicated. Just connect with yourself and reflect.
Yeah. All right, Victor, 8.5.
You cannot control how people act. But you can learn how to react.
Okay.
And that is where emotional intelligence comes
all about. All right. And on that note, we conclude the show. Thank you very much. Such an insightful conversation that we had today. I have learned a lot, to be honest. Confused, but also learned a lot about myself because I thought I was this way, but then again, I'm like, maybe not. Okay. And I hope that you've also done a lot of introspection to understand who you are and how you interact with other people as well. So we end it here. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Again, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who put together this show. We wish you a lovely day ahead. We'll see you tomorrow. And it's all about self-care plus an amazing conversation you do not want to miss. So see you tomorrow. Goodbye for now.